delighted to welcome Catia Kim, who's based in Brazil, who's going to share their ideas and insights today. So thank you so much for joining me today, Catia.
Thank you, Nina, for having me.
No problem. And we're kicking off these conversations with a very kind of human question, which is, how are you feeling today? How are you arriving at the call?
Today I am arriving a little bit tired. This past few weeks have been very complex, but at the same time I'm very excited to be part of this movement, of this conversation, and be able to get to know others that are uh, fighting also, and not just surviving, but also fighting to a better world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's tiring work and complex work that everyone's doing. So I think you're in good company there. But hopefully we can lift you up through through the conversation as well. Can you tell me a bit about yourself as a human and when you feel most alive? Aspects of you where you feel most human.
Well, I'm a kid of immigrants. I consider myself a non-binary person, which is complex being a kid of immigrants. But anyways, um, I really love to be in nature, even though I born in a city. So what makes me feel very alive, it's being in nature and doing like hacking, trekking. I don't know. I think it's trekking, right? I'm
Yeah,
not really
trekking.
good at it, but we have a very free modality of trekking here, and it's very fun to be in a cachoeira, down the water, in the cold water, like to wake you up and to give you energy. That's one of the things that makes me feel very alive and happy.
I love that. Do you do that by yourself or with others?
Yes, I do. I do by myself pretty much, and with my family and with my girlfriend. So
Yeah. Oh, it sounds beautiful. Yeah, definitely. That's been a bit of a theme on some of these calls is getting out into nature and being out in nature, definitely. That's fantastic. And can you tell me a little bit more, about your work, about the organization you work for, and what it's all about?
So I'm currently the coordinator of ITTC, which is Instituto Terra, Trabalho e Cidadania, or Land, Work and Citizenship. It's a social organization that exists since 1997. It started in the moment of reconnection with the democracy, right? The end of authoritarianism of Brazil and the building of democracy as a strong measure in Brazil. And then we started to work a lot with the access of land and labor. That's why we have this name. Over
Yeah.
the years, and because of the formation of our founders, especially the women founders, we started also to do work inside prisons. And then there we identified that the women's wasn't having the same rights of men's, unfortunately. The same laws wasn't applicable to them. And also we had a specific public there that it was the public of migrants that also wasn't having even the same access to the rights of women, which you,
Yeah.
as you know, and you understood, it was
Yeah.
lack also. And that where it started our work in terms of gender justice system and incarceration and decarceration. Over the years, we had many different projects also in terms of drug policies, in terms of labor access, gender justice. Well, and nowadays we are focusing a lot on leadership and self-care and caring, the political of care, the policy of care, um, always related and interconnected with the impacts of the criminal justice system in Brazil and the racism and the misogyny those kind of things.
And
Good for you.
how many people are sort of in your team?
Okay.
And what are some of the different roles that people play?
Well, we have always a great team over the years.
Yeah.
I cannot avoid from telling that. Most of our team is formed by women and has always been. And also now, and pretty much over the last few years, also gender non-conforming people. So that's pretty much what the profile of our team. But also we have as a profile of a team people with different from backgrounds and formations. So we have people from law, from science, social sciences, from international law, from social assistance, from psychology. So over the years we had like a mix team.
Multidisciplinary.
Exactly, because we also believe that everything we do, even the direct support that we do for migrant women that are in prison and also formerly incarcerated, uh, it it's made by this multidisciplinary knowledge. And yeah, this is our big power. Our team is our big power. We had a
Yeah.
very recent change in our organization in terms of uh, governance. I'm not sure if that's the
Yep, that's
word.
the word. Yep.
Yeah. So we had a directory, and now we don't have a directory board. Now we have a council board and an
Okay.
executive team. So everything what we do with autonomy, we do with responsibility, and we also have now formerly incarcerated women in our team, me as a family member. So we are very much seeking for um, more representation in our organization, even
Yeah.
though years among the years we had pretty much women and Black women in our organization. Also, we understand that our work demands, what we do demands to have people directly impacted in our organization. That's it.
Thank you for explaining that. That sounds great. And we've asked you to bring along an object that represents a moment of humanness in your work. Would you be kind enough to share that object with us and explain why you brought that along?
Okay, first of all, I'd like to say that it was uh, it was funny thinking that we as human rights activists have difficulties to think about humanness in what we do, because that's pretty much what we do. And at
Yeah.
the same time, like finding self-care and response of what is care in general. So it was kind of hard to look for an object, but what I brought was this, which
Oh,
is
amazing. Yep.
from Colombia, right?
Ah, yes,
And
from Bogota.
it's a beautiful night in Colombia. But this object, it's representation of the first time I went to Colombia. Uh, Me myself, I had opportunities to travel the world because of my work, because of what we
Yeah,
do, right?
yeah,
And that was the first time in 2019, October of 2019, that I went to Colombia. And I went invited by a bunch of organizations there, and also not from there, but that works with Latin America, to be able to attend together with formerly incarcerated women in the first meeting of the Americas of formerly incarcerated women and family members. It was a huge meeting. It had people from all over the world, even though it was from the Americas, but of
yeah.
course the continent America that we are talking
Mm,
from up to down and from down
yeah.
to up. There was a lot of people. And
Wow.
that time I was invited as somebody of one organization that works with, right?
Yeah.
And not as a family member myself. And then I realized there, together with all those family members and formerly incarcerated women from all over, what I was also, like that I also
Yeah.
was a family member and that I could talk about it, that I could share
Mm.
that. And of course, that was a very important moment. I had a moment that the groups were separated. I don't
Yeah.
know very well why. Maybe a methodology problem that we all now we understand that it was a methodology problem. But back then we were
Yeah.
separated. And then when I was with this group of amazing organizations with amazing work, I wasn't feeling very in. But when I
Mm.
was with the other group, I was feeling like very in, and I was thinking so many things, and things were making sense. This global work were making more sense. And
Mm.
then I realized, and then one family member of Brazil, of another organization here called Amparar, which is a very historic and important organization here in Brazil, she said, you should say it aloud. You should tell them
Yeah.
what you also represent, and how that impacted your life when you were a child, because
Yeah.
nobody also speak about the impacts of incarceration to the child, to the
Yeah.
kids, to the
Yeah.
adolescents. And that was the first public speech that I did among
Wow.
that story. So that object actually represents a very specific and important story, personal story, but also related to my organization, because I only had possibility to participate in that event because of the work of this
Mm.
organization, right?
Yeah.
So that was my story.
Wow. And
Now I can explain without crying, so that's a good advance.
oh, I can tell it's really emotional. What was the reaction after you spoke, and how did you feel as well afterwards?
Oh, that was a big emotional roller coaster back then, but it was amazing how I felt. I don't know the word of that, but how I felt hugged, how I felt
Yeah.
cared by the others, and understood that the others understood also my pain and what happened to me, and that we could have a safe place to share, but also to transform that pain into power. I hear that a lot from some groups that are based in the United States that have been doing this amazing work as well. And how to transform this pain into power was something very, very unique and important for me by the time, and gave me more power also to keep doing what I was doing, and doing better also, and gathering more people together. So by that time, it was the moment that we started to be in direct contact and have close relations with formerly incarcerated women all around the world, and that changed my life until now. Like, I still feel that. I still feel that something big change in my life and in myself.
Yeah. It's a real pivotal moment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that very personal story with us. And I think a lot of people will resonate with what you're saying. And yeah, that turning pain into power is a really powerful phrase. And I hear that a lot here in the UK with our movement of people who, have been formerly incarcerated or have got lived experience, have been family members. Talking about that sort of purpose. I wanted to ask about this idea of kind of humanness and a more human justice system, and sort of thinking about sort of drawing on your experiences and the work you've been doing. How do you think we can promote humanness in our justice systems, and also to enable people in the justice system impacted by the justice system to be seen as human?
Well, based on our experience of HTC, something that was always very important in general terms was to show the reality of each people as an individual, and also as a community. So present information to the judges, to the actors of the criminal justice system, for the all the actors, right, that participate somehow in this process of understanding that there is a law, so we should serve that law. And sometimes we serve that law in the way that we understand that is the correct, with our morality, with our customs, with our backgrounds. um, and we didn't even realize that the actors of the criminal justice system most of the times forget about that and don't realize that they are using all those uh, myself backgrounds into their
Yeah.
judgments, into their acting. So presenting information, presenting personal information, and building a participatory defense with the family members, and we do
Yeah.
understand that this is very important. It's bringing humanness to the process of judgment, the process
Yeah.
of incarceration.
Mm.
Of course, we always talk about the previous um, measures, the previous lacknesses that brings people to perhaps commit crimes, perhaps go into prisons because of those crimes.
Yeah.
And that would be the basic things that um, in our countries that suffers a
Mm.
lot of a lack of public policies, of a lack of health, a lack of social assistance, and things like that. And opportunities, and
Yeah.
opportunities
Yeah.
of dreaming, right? We need
Yeah.
to build also humanness in our public policies, in our
Mm.
daily basis, understand and work to bring those rights into something that is human, right? I have a t-shirt here that it's not possible to see very, very well, but it's right.
Oh
It's
wow.
written
Yeah.
human rights for human, right? Which
I love that.
right, so human rights, it's for human, right? And this t-shirt, it's from an organization called human women for women nest, that it's an organization from Indonesia. It's a very, very
Wow.
nice organization as well. And I always think about this t-shirt. I love this t-shirt, and that makes a lot of sense, like human
Yeah.
rights for human, right? So I talk about this two contexts in the produce of participatory defense, but also this movement of talking with those ones that have the pen in their hands,
Yeah. Yeah.
and bringing this humanity of every single people that suffered incarceration, and that their lives led to incarceration. Sometimes they didn't have a choice, and what we understand as choice, right? How we build the better understanding of what is choice and autonomy to choose in the middle of so many vulnerabilities contexts. um, so that would be like a pencil of small thing of how we understand that we can build humanity. But of course, there's so many different strategies that we
Yeah.
do, and that we see in the world that are very important.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's really important what you were saying about, yeah, that sort of at that moment in the court, in the judgment, sort of having that seeing the whole person, seeing all the, the background, all the humanity, and involving the family at that stage. And then also with your advocacy work and your policy work, building humanness into that too. If you had a magic wand and we had a justice system that was more human, what would be happening? What would that look like? What would that feel like, sound like? Tell us your sort of imagined, sort of future of a more human justice system that you'd like to see.
Mhm. Well, first of all, I imagine just a system that it's built in justice and not in punitivism. Um, a justice system that exactly what I said before, like understands the vulnerabilities of the communities, and instead of thinking that those vulnerabilities are a host for people to commit crimes, Instead of that, they think that those vulnerabilities is something that we as a community, as a society, we need to fight back and work
Yeah.
for that context and scenario do not exist.
Yeah.
But in practical terms, I do believe in a society that works better without prisons, that works better with other and alternative forms of responsibility, that we can build a sense of responsibility in a way that it's not related to the privacy of freedom, privacy of
Yeah.
freedom.
Yeah.
Um, so that means that we need to build safe spaces in the communities to talk about what is justice, what is our rights, what is our duties also as living in society, how to dream, because whatever we talk about uh, the justice system, we don't talk about the dreams of people, what they've been thinking, what we've been dreaming of in our future, and having not being a human being without dreams, it's a human being with no possibilities in the future. Like I
Yeah.
don't see
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
How can I reach something that I don't see? How can I reach something that I don't imagine? So and that's why I say we believe truly in multidisciplinary work and multidisciplinary approaches,
Mm.
because we don't find responses just with the law.
Yeah.
Uh, Even though we can discuss if law is a science or not, we cannot, right? We cannot find all the answers to one area. Even though
Yeah.
it's broad, we cannot find answers with
Yeah.
just one area. And that means like we cannot also find responses just with psychology or just with social
Mhm.
assistance or just with this or that. We really need a multidisciplinary approach and
Yeah.
understand and build that understand and approach um, in the practice of each region, in the practice of
Mhm.
each
Yeah.
community. Because for as an example, in Brazil, we have so many different backgrounds in the
Yeah.
communities that are related to so many also different stories and backgrounds as historical moments in different contexts in the different regions that we have, but also in the
Yeah.
small communities in one city. So even in one city we have that it's like 2 kilometers away. There's a
Yeah.
big difference of approaches that we can have, and that's hard. Of course, it's hard to think
Mm.
about how the justice system will work on that. So let's have the opportunity, let's give the opportunity to the community to build their own responses and
Yeah.
approaches,
Yeah.
even though we might have, and it's important to have a general organization, a general path,
Yeah.
leave the communities to also find their own responses in a way that they also have autonomy and they also break with the influences of the parallel forces that we have among the absence of the state. So those some of the things that I thought
Yeah.
hearing
No,
your question.
I love that. And I love, yeah, this idea of, really putting it back to that very, very local level, that real kind of grassroots community level. And I'm really interested, Katia, around, have you seen that anywhere? Does that exist? Is that, in some places, is there a pocket of the future happening somewhere that, that links to what you've just been talking about, that is, whether it's just something small that's happening, that you can talk about, and yeah, is there a pocket of the future happening?
Sure. Over those years and all the places I went and getting closer to my own community, um, I understand that there's a lot of invisible work and that has been doing daily on a daily basis, step by step,
Yeah.
small, small. And that it actually maybe it's not that interesting that all of those daily basis work are publicized, because
Yeah.
we are also sometimes in a context of so much fear
Yeah.
and preoccupation of what would happen with our work. And yes, so there is a region here in São Paulo. We are São Paulo, the city São Paulo is it's divided by east, west, north, right? So we have
Yeah.
this, and then we have the so we have north, we have
Yeah.
east. Yeah,
Yeah.
so the in
Yeah.
the east side, it's small, it's not that big, but
Hmm.
have a really big population. Like it's
Yeah.
the biggest population of São Paulo. And then we have south, which is a really big region, like huge region,
Yeah.
with a little bit small population. It's hard to say that in São Paulo, because São Paulo it's a huge city with a big, big, big population. But
Yeah.
anyways, like just for you to have an idea of the big difference between the
Yeah.
territory and the amount, the quantity of
Exactly.
people.
Yeah.
So in the east side, in the others, all the sides, all the city, we have a public policy that I understand it's a very important public policy of
Mm.
Brazil, that it's called SUAS. So it's a public policy that it's related to the social assistance program, national
Yeah.
program, and also city program and state program. And the idea of this program, SUAS, is
Mm.
to have work in each and every community. All the
Wow.
communities in a determinate area, you have a SUAS.
Yeah.
And this service that we call a service, so this service do visits in the family, in the houses, talks about what's going on, like interconnects with the public health system,
Yeah.
interconnects with the social benefits, interconnects with like a bunch of other programs that we have in Brazil. And I truly actually believe in this, in the social and in the public programs of Brazil, like
Yeah.
SUAS, like SUS, which is well known from on all over the world,
Mm.
our public health system. I truly believe that because it decentralized the
Yeah.
public policy. And
Yeah.
after you
Yeah.
do that, then you have this small pitch of what would be a community response and or community
Mm.
access to responses
Yeah.
those terms. Because also we have small programs that are decentralized that are related to violence, community
Yeah.
violence.
Yeah.
So we in those services we can access the understanding of what is this community violence and what's going on in our houses and what's going on with our neighborhoods and what's going on with this and that. And
Yeah.
when we have a conflict, I am well known aware that
Yeah.
those services supports and those workers that are there, workers that are precarized, I don't know if that word is right, workers that do not gain very well, that suffer a lot
Yeah.
to do their
Yeah.
work and
Yeah.
had to
Yeah.
work in different jobs.
Yeah.
These workers do a lot of supports a lot of this community response. So
Yeah. Yeah.
they are somehow this guide that I said,
Yeah.
like the state can give some guides,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
among those guides and professional and approach,
Yeah.
the community will find their own response. And I see that
Wow.
very often in the daily basis of their work and the daily basis of the existence of the communities.
Yeah.
Um, so even though it's hard to explain like how it works, the public policies in Brazil, and it's a
Yeah.
big, big thing. Like one day, if you have the opportunity of coming to Brazil and like profoundly understand
Yeah.
the social worker
Absolutely.
system, the health system, you will see like it's complicated. You will see a bunch
Yeah.
of different names, you will see a
Yeah.
bunch of different things, and then you realize, well, this is a community approach,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
This is a community approach. And then what they do in the community, and why actually it's not just what they do, but the existence of this public policy in the
Yeah.
community helps a lot to reduce the damage, the to reduce the damage of of all those things that I said before, the
Yeah. Yeah.
vulnerabilities and everything. It is not
Yeah.
the answer like, okay, that resolves everything. It's not,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but it is a very important and good approach that we as a Brazilian, we need to fight for
Yeah.
those public policies to keep existing and
Yeah.
to be
To
broader
expand.
and
Yeah.
expand. Exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely. Wow. And that's great to hear that, yeah, you've got this real example of how that works at that real community level, that sort of pocket of the future that is actually happening, that we can draw on. And I want to sort of ask you, I guess, sort of thinking about that and also thinking about the work that you talked about in Bogota and that kind of real kind of collaboration sort of work. What's the first sort of step in taking that sort of model that you described, that very local model, to start to expand it, or to, what do you think is the sort of the first step?
I think I think the first step, it's already passed. We've been doing that over the years,
Yeah.
right? So, um, which is pretty much being together, getting to know together,
Yeah.
getting to know each other. So we
Yeah.
need to know who is doing those works. We need to
Yeah.
know who are the leaders in the communities. We need to
Mm.
be together. That's the first step, in my opinion. We
Yeah.
need to be together. And being together, naturally, there is a force of movement there, in an understanding, a collective understanding that together we have more power, that
Yeah.
together we have more capacity, we have more conditions to
Yeah.
transform. And
Yeah.
even though we have differences, and we might have a lot of differences, regional,
Mm.
local, cultural,
Yeah.
and background differences as a living
Yeah.
people and having living experience, we have different backgrounds, but with those differences, what we can um, what we can learn on that and work together, and in which ways. So
Yeah.
sometimes we can find people that work more with institutions, with the
Mm.
justice institutions. Okay, let's talk with them, and
Mm.
then let's bring other experiences. Let's bring this humanness into this
Yeah.
work. Let's do it together. And then we have the other group that works directly, like we are a group of formerly incarcerated women and men, and what we are doing is this and this, so we talk easily with other
Yeah.
formerly incarcerated women and men. We understand the approaches, we bring and build new approaches. Okay, so let's also bring people that understands uh, of advocacy, and we can bring all this potential to the lawmaking people, and I don't know. So anything that we can
Yeah.
do together, it comes once we meet. Once we
Yeah.
meet
Yeah.
each other, that comes. It's natural. Like we cannot
Yeah.
we cannot avoid that. But also, I understand that with that, we need to down the selfishness that this capitalistic individual work word sometimes gives us. It's not the
Yeah. Yeah.
capitalism itself, but it's the capitalistic idea of
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
as an individuals, we need to make a difference, and we as an individuals, we need
Mm.
to do this and that. No, we
Yeah.
need to do that
Yeah.
as a community. And
Yeah.
somehow
Yeah.
the society, our humanity, the humanity
Yeah.
growed a lot and evolved a lot because of the collective work. So
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like we need to back down and wait. Me, myself, I cannot do that alone. Uh,
Yeah.
Me, my organization, we cannot do that alone. So how
Yeah.
can we do that together and block that selfishness that comes also naturally, that comes with the big demand, that comes with the tiredness,
Yeah.
and the suffering of dealing with so many harsh situations. But we
Yeah.
need to block and build and put that wall down as well.
I love that. I love centering it in that building of community and how you do that and being together and this work is long-term work. This is work that you've been doing for many years. This is starting around. from your, I understand that there's been, changes in policy in Brazil, particularly around women in custody. How how did that come about, and were you involved in that? And was that part of this sort of building over many years of what you've talked about, of these sort of movements and bringing people together to result in some of this sort of quite big change that's happening?
Story of ITTC, we've been working a lot in advocacy, and I don't know how to translate that, but that would be our work in judiciary cases.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
how do I call that?
yeah.
Strategy
Court
court.
cases, or yeah,
Yeah, in court cases,
yeah,
especially in the Supreme Court cases
yes,
in Brazil.
yeah,
And our work on gender is very, very strong. It's very, very strong. So um, now, right now, what we understand, and it's important that we talk about this, that we
yeah,
understand that our laws in Brazil, they do not have a gender perspective,
yeah,
especially those laws in the criminal system, the criminal laws. They don't have a gender perspective. And even though over the years, and we are talking about more than 20 years, punching the system, like we need to have a gender perspective. The
yeah,
judgment that you're doing need to have a gender perspective. We do advance a lot. We do have
mm,
decisions of the court now, of the Superior Court, saying that all the judgment of a women have to have a gender perspective, that
yeah,
guidance. That doesn't mean
brilliant.
that
Yeah,
happened, right? Also,
yeah,
like we had a habeas corpus, a collective habeas corpus judged for more than 20 years now. Like we are seeking a little bit more than 20 years now. That said that all the women that were pregnant or had under your responsibility or had kids under
yeah,
12 had
yeah,
the right of home prison, right?
yeah,
And then we think, what is home prison? And then IHTC did a bunch of research, understanding and giving the like giving the more information to the society,
yeah,
because the government, state do not build those kind of information
yeah,
of what are the impacts of also of
yeah,
home prison.
yeah,
So how the home prison have to be applied,
yeah,
um, the conditions that give the possibility of somebody that is a woman that
yeah,
have kids or they're pregnant
yeah,
or that have
yeah,
children under their responsibility
yeah,
can build a life and can build a self-care and care of their kids in the better way. Um, we also study and deal a lot about alternatives of incarceration
yeah, yeah,
to women. And it's always important to say, people ask
mm,
me, why you always work just with women? Why you just work with women? And then I can answer that very easily. No, we don't work just with women.
yeah,
Our
yeah,
approach is a gender approach.
yeah,
And
yeah,
yes, we do support directly migrant women,
yeah,
uh, but our work is not just for women. Everything that a woman in the justice system
mm,
access, it has to it is accessed by men
yeah, yeah,
automatically,
yeah, yeah,
automatically. And we have proof, we have data to show that.
mm,
For example, as a home for the home prison, because of all the legal marks that we fight for among the years, together, of course, with other organizations and groups and communities and collectives, of course. But over those years, everything that we fight for, so the legal mark of the first childhood, this
yeah,
habeas corpus, the decisions of the Supreme Court, and also the small changes of the laws, because Brazil, it's oh my God, so much punitivism, but some
yeah,
small changes of the law that gave the possibility of women to
yeah,
be decarcerated also
yeah,
reached the
yeah,
men.
yeah, yeah,
And the home prison is one big example of that,
yeah,
because in 10 years we had increase of more than 40% of
yeah,
access to the home prison to the women. At the same time, that also increased so much to the men that the difference between men and women that have access to the home prison here in Brazil
Yeah.
is pretty much the same over the 10 years. It's
Wow.
still 10%,
Yeah. Yeah.
11%. It doesn't change the difference between.
Yeah. They're both
So
increasing.
so if 10 years ago we had to like 10,000 men that had access, now we
Yeah.
have here, and this number I'm not pretty sure, I have that
Yeah.
on record, but I'm not pretty sure. But let's say that from 10,000 men, we have now 100,000 men.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then if we had like 300 women, now we
Yeah.
have 20,000 women.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the increase that we are talking about, and
Mm.
that's the difference that I'm talking about as well. So I always like say, no, it is
Yeah.
important that you don't get to tell me that we just work
Yeah.
with women and why men are not being worked in those situations. No, we are talking about rights of a public that it's more vulnerable, that all the public policies and all the system policies, the justice system policies wasn't built to. And when we talk
Yeah.
about this, that we need to build to, then the rights come as something
Yeah.
urge.
Yeah.
Oh, those ones that have the pen, they realize, oh, so there was rights here that we didn't realize that people had, right? So
Yeah.
because we get to withdraw from the generality of the law that
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
most of the times we have, to something concrete, to the
Yeah.
rights of people, to the humanity of each individual. That's why
Absolutely.
sometimes I see people saying that, oh, I didn't realize that they had this law, this right. Okay, good that you realize now, so let's do something about it.
I love that. And just yeah, that sort of transformative nature of the work that you're doing and the ripple effects that it has across the rest of the system. Amazing. And I just wanted to come back to something that you said at the start, where you were talking about working across the Americas, and I know that you work internationally as well, and just what your thoughts are and the importance of working globally, what you personally get from traveling to these different countries, from seeing different systems, from building a kind of a global movement around this. What do you think is, you know, the sort of the benefits of having that global connections?
So many, so many. First of all, a very subjective thing, which is I'm not alone. We're not
Yeah,
alone.
yeah,
So that thought is amazing. It gives us a power that it's hard to explain.
yeah,
So that would be the first one. The second one is we actually we actually can see the possibility of building a global movement without that individualistic approach,
yeah. Yeah.
that is related also to our territory, to our reality.
Mhm.
So
Mm.
you start to imagine
Yeah,
and reimagine your own community based on what's going on also in other countries and all the realities and other approaches that is happening. So you start to realize, so what we do, what we are seeking, maybe we are also we are also walking in the same way always. So
yeah.
we can think differently, so we have ideas, we have
Mhm.
perspectives. And when we have the opportunity of somebody or a funder, a donor, a supporter, an investor realizes that with us and we are supported, right? We are well supported in different moments, and movements are supported. We can build this capacity together. We can increase this capacity together, and that is amazing. I've been seeing that. Of course, we've been suffering a lot during this last few years, but having that realized, okay, so small capacity of one, small capacity of one, small capacity of one can build
Yeah,
a big capacity,
yeah,
then we have a possibility of transform. And also another thing that is very important, and that I realized very, very soon, sometimes our governments, sometimes our local governments, they understand and they hear better
Yeah.
others, people from other countries.
Yes.
sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
And we can build a strategy among that,
Mm. Yeah.
related to that.
Mm. Yeah.
So with our different knowledges and with our different experiences, we can use that fact as a strategy of change, but in our way, and with all the pardon to the UK, but in the global South way,
Yeah.
that we see people and then we realize, well, we are not, we can build our own strategy here.
Yeah.
We can do that. We can build our own strategy, and let's understand what the impacts of the colonialism, and let's do
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
backgrounds, and
Yeah.
backgrounds in maybe in a more community based way. So
Yeah.
uh, with that, I understand that it's we also like been sharing and inter sharing with that. Like when we
Yeah.
say to people in our in our country, we've been doing international work. We've been talking with this and this and this and this and this, and this is
Yeah.
a real work. This is not
Yeah.
just something that we will write in a report. It's real work that we've been doing. People of the government start thinking like, well, what are they doing? Why are they
Yeah.
seeking for those experiences in other countries? Why are they inspiring themselves in other countries? And then we bring those inspirations as well. And we say, this is also an inspiration. Let's put that in our reality. But this is an inspiration that you, as a government, as a state, as somebody that have the pencil, you can also seek for that. And we understand the people from government sometimes also have they are stuck. They cannot do much sometimes. They are
Yeah.
more, in some ways, they're more stuck than we as a civil society. So in
Yeah.
that way, we can support to give,
Yeah.
to have those ideas brought in, to understand how to move the bureaucracy, right?
Yeah.
So that, 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 those are the things that I understand that are more valuable of building those bridges and being together as a global community and a global work.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. It sounds very, that sort of bridge building, whether that's between different organizations, different countries, between governments, with ideas. Yeah, really sort of connecting everyone together. Really, really valuable work. And just to sort of finish off, do you have any sort of recommendations for people that are watching this interview, listening to this interview, about sort of top, things that you read, or whether that could be a book, or an article or a poem, or things that people could listen to, like podcasts, for example, or things that people should watch. What have you read, listened to, and watched that inspires your work around more human justice systems?
So I would like to recommend the writer. It's a Korean writer and philosopher that it's
Okay.
called Byung-Chul Han. And
Okay.
unfortunately, even though I'm a kid of Koreans, I'm not a Korean writer. And I was able to get to know this philosopher after the books of him were translated to Portuguese.
Okay. Yeah.
And and I feel something about this philosopher that it's really connected to the modernity, with the modern world and what we
Yeah.
are living now. And we need to calm down. We need to
Yeah.
slow down, actually, not come down, but slow down. And slowing down will give us opportunity to share more, to look in the eye, to um, have new and important recording of what we are dealing now, because yes, we are dealing in the political context, international political context, local context, a very very dangerous context,
Yeah.
and we are concerned, we are worried, but we need to slow down and be close, be near to those ones that can give us this strength. Everything that we had in this conversation, everything that I mentioned in this conversation, the eye on eye, the one on one, right? That
Yeah.
actually thrills me. That give us power. And We need to do that. So I would recommend that philosopher, because the reading is very slow and and reflective.
Yeah,
So you read
yeah,
like 3 paragraphs and you start to think like, oh my God, really? Like what's going on with my life? But we need time to do that. Like we need time to
yeah,
do that. We've been seek like internet all for real impacted a lot of how we seek information, how we see information, how we
yeah,
absorb information, and it's been impacting our child, our adolescents, and I didn't have much opportunity to talk about my work with adolescents, but uh, we are in this unknown world that
yeah,
only
yeah,
together and only with the I we can slow down and find new responses
yeah,
and community
yeah,
responses. And maybe we never know, because we are not the ones that have the decision in our hands. And people that have the decisions in their hands, they do a lot of complicated decisions. As we don't know what's going on, what we're going on in those terms, in those general terms, we need to protect ourselves as well,
yeah, yeah,
and find those community-based protection ways as well.
yeah, yeah.
It's something I think it's challenging. I think it's something that
Mm,
we need to. I'm pretty much sure that there are people thinking about that, and so we need to seek those people as well in our
yeah,
work, because as I mentioned in the beginning of our conversation, we don't talk much about self-care, and it's hard as a human rights activist, especially in the
yeah,
criminal justice system, in this justice
yeah,
system world,
yeah,
to think about that. And I've been thinking a lot about that, even though it's hard to put in practice.
yeah,
It's something that I've been thinking a lot, because we need to take care of ourselves and we need to
yeah,
slow down.
yeah.
That's what I have to say, like right now.
I love that.
And we
And
need more people. We need more people.
yeah, well, hopefully this, these events that we're running, will help to put people in contact with each other to start, to sort of build these interconnections to, and I'm sure you'll inspire so many people, with the work that you're doing, and they'll want to find out even more about it as well. Where can people go if they're interested to find out more? Uh, what's your website? How can people find out more about the work that you do? But yeah, it's been really wonderful and inspiring listen to you and yeah, all the amazing work that you're doing. And yeah, it's beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Let's
everything
keep
that you
doing
do.
that together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We look forward to seeing you at the event, at the
Yes,
workshop.
yes.
Wonderful.
Bye bye,
Thank you so
Nina.
much,
I
Katia. Have a
hope
good
I
rest of
hope I
your
have
day.
the opportunity of getting to know you in person one day as well. Let's see. Let's see how
So
it
do I.
goes.
So do I. Definitely.
Bye bye. Take care. Have a good day.
Thanks a lot. Take care, Katia. Bye bye.